So did you just sprint into the room, hoping for someone to come in later than you to look like you are more on time than they were? According to Dr. Donald E. Wetmore of the Productivity Institute, did you know that the average working person spends less than 2 minutes per day in meaningful communication with their spouse or significant other? The average working person spends less than 30 seconds a day in meaningful communication with their children. Yet the average American watches 28 hours of television per week. In the last 20 years, working time has increased by 15%, and leisure time has decreased by 33%. 49% of workers in America complain that they are on a treadmill. What's this have to do with time management? The irony is that 90% of those who join health and fitness clubs will stop going within the first 90 days and probably never see the treadmill. We all complain we don't have time. Time for what? What we really are talking about is prioritization so that we have the time to do what we want. Our speaker is a graduate of the University of Delaware with a communication degree in interpersonal and organizational communication. He is a prize-winning speaker and award-winning author of 6 books, including Time Management Manifesto, Expert Strategies to Create an Effective Work-Life Balance. He's also the guy fashionably on time to parties. Our speaker will teach us that time management is a disciplined mindset. Having control in your life is about commitment, routines, flexibility, adjustments, and planning. We do have more control in our lives than we think. It's time for you to manage your time. Don't let it manage you. We're going to welcome Tom Dowd, and one other little plug I want to tell you is there are books up here, and you can pick them up during any break time. They're just $5 a piece, except the audios are $10. But please welcome Tom Dowd.
Before the meeting, I had a chance to talk with some of you and ask what causes adults the most time management stress. And it somehow miraculously turned into a top 10 list. Can I have the volunteers or the people who are voluntold because you're holding on to a numbered envelope come on up to the front of the stage to help read them up? We're going to stand in numerical order, which is going to be the hardest part of the entire presentation. When I call out your number, please read the statement that's inside. The bonus, you're in front. Like I said, standing in numerical order is going to be a very hard part of this. Number 10? Number 10. All right, come on. I did this once, and number 6 never showed, so I'll just have to count to make sure everyone's okay. Threw the whole thing up. It was a top 10, 9. All right, number 10.
Listening to your boss sound like Oprah saying, "You get a project, you get a project, you get a project." Everyone gets a project.
Number 9.
When you can't find a couple of hours to watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off, let alone find time to take a vacation.
Number 8.
When you look at the dropped food on the floor, wishing you had time to violate the 5-second rule.
Number 7.
Wishing to literally end the meeting because your peer won't stop saying literally.
Number 6.
When your boss is lecturing the team about inefficiency, but it has taken 3 hours.
Number 5.
I'll
slept in too late on my day off. Now I have less time to do nothing.
Number 3.
How dare you drive the speed limit when I'm late to something due to my own poor time management.
Number 2.
If I had $1 for every time I got distracted, I wish I had some ice cream.
Number 1.
Group exercise. One tiny word that will save you a lot of time. Let's say it together.
No. And there is a bonus. We did have a bonus thrown in. Go ahead.
Learn about time management. I don't have time for that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out. So let's talk about multitasking. We're going to do an exercise, so if you can pull out pencil, pen, paper, if for some reason you don't have that, no big deal, pretend to write in the air or pretend to write on your hand. It's a very simple exercise. I want you to spell out your name. So for me, T-O-M-D-O-W-D. Go ahead and spell out your name. Thank you, that's my presentation. It's the only way you can remember. Now I want you to spell out your name again, but this time we're going to do it a little differently. I want you to spell it out first initial first name, first initial last name, second initial first name, second initial last name, and so on. So for me, T-D-O-O-M-W-D. Go ahead and write that out. First initial first name, first initial last name, second initial first name, second initial last name, third initial first name. All right. I'm going to ask a very obvious question. Which one of these took longer, the first one or the second one? That's because our mind is multitasking. So now that we've proven that multitasking doesn't make us any more productive, we can get into the program. Although it shouldn't come as a surprise, there are only 24 hours in a day. Our professional lives bleed into our personal lives. With a do more with less mentality and better technology, that line gets blurred even more. But what if you can do everything you want to do? What if you could do more in a 40-hour week than you can in your current 50, 60, or 70-hour work weeks? What if it was simply a matter of working smarter, not harder? What if you could do it with better quality, have more time to develop relationships, and strategically improve your business? Good time management and organizational skills are a must for successful professionals. Time management is a disciplined mindset that enables us to live in the present while working toward the future. It's mental. It's an attitude. Having control in our lives is about commitment, routine, flexibility, adjustments, and planning. We create our own self-limitations. We say we'll do tomorrow what we really want to do today. Eliminate what's holding you back. Today I'll share insights and specific actions around the following themes. Manage your time, don't let it manage you. Time management is a requirement of all positions and all roles in all organizations, and the benefits of managing your professional time effectively spills into your personal space. The first time I ever remember being called anal retentive, I debated whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. According to Memedex dictionary, it's a person who pays such attention to detail that the obsession becomes an annoyance to others, potentially to the detriment of the anal retentive person. The term derives from Freudian psychoanalysis. I guess a description with the word psychoanalysis and obsession may not always be a good thing. But the term grew on me. The references to being anal retentive typically revolved around making sure that things got done. Nowhere in the definition does it mention time, organization, or time management. Yet when people say they don't have time, what they're really saying is they can't get done everything they want to get done. Do everything you want to do. Pay attention to the right priorities. I've been teaching time management for over 20 years. I want to emphasize the following 4 points. 1, there is no secret to time management. Commitments, routines, and other factors will lead to your success, but there is no secret sauce. When you find the right balances, it will work for you. 2, as attached as we are to the latest and greatest technology, they are only supporting tools to the process of time management. In fact, some of them, including social media, eat up large chunks of our time without us even realizing it. Ever hear of Candy Crush? Netflix? Although on social media, I do appreciate a good picture of somebody's dinner. 3, our personal and professional lives are intertwined. We may not believe we bring our work home with us. We may not even talk about it. But we do think about it. What do I have to do tomorrow? Did I ever send that email? Did I ever get back to my boss? A dozen random work thoughts worm their way into the sanctity of our home life, regardless of how we want to keep them separate. And finally, for as long as I've been sharing time management tips, it's been rare that I've made significant changes to what I've been teaching. It's not because I haven't evolved over time, it's just that I found that people overcomplicate the process or have more excuses than solutions. Let's oversimplify instead. Let's start with sleep. I sleep extremely well. I wake up refreshed and ready for each day. I sleep more than the recommended 8 hours. I balance between my full-time job and side interests while still attending my children's plays and sporting events and other activities. I mention this not to say, look how much I can jam into a day. I truly don't feel like I jam anything into a day. I simply prepare for it ahead of time. I own my 24 hours. I don't rent it. I determine what I do with it. I'm accountable. I was sitting in a company-sponsored time management training as a new manager at the ripe bold age of 24. In my hands, I held a time management binder that I was sure would solve all of my problems. The instructor made a comment that has unintentionally stuck with me over the years. If you don't manage your time well, you'll be playing catch with one of your kids one day, and your mind will be elsewhere. Fast forward many years later. I was playing soccer with one of my kids, and my mind was wandering. I was distracted with work thoughts. My professional life was bleeding into my personal life. Time management has human connections that impact more than you. I was running to what I thought to be the most important meeting ever, so important I can't even remember what it was. What I can remember is someone who worked for me stopped me at my office door and asked if I had a couple minutes. I asked if it was important. The words said no. The eyes I remember so clearly said yes. Never saw her. I found out later she had stress-related mental health issues. I could have easily found her the support and assistance she needed with a quick phone call. Instead, my calendar told me exactly where I needed to be and at what time. People take priority in time management. A lesson I had to learn the hard way. Have you ever been deep in or just hit your stride on a project, only to have it snatched away with a phone call, an email that caught the corner of your eye, or even worse, a loud ding from one of the devices you're working from? Research has proven it'll take up to 7 times longer to get back to the thought you just had than it took you to have the original thought in the first place. Minimize the distraction. Turn off your ringer. Turn off your email previews. Turn off the noise. Turning off the world won't solve your problem, but it will allow you to batch them until you're ready to deal with them. You do have control. You do eventually have to turn the world back on. How do you handle it? You build in time for the unexpected, or as the business world likes to affectionately call them, fire drills. In an article entitled "Don't Let Technology Take Over," Dave Beck references a basic study of over 1,000 office workers showing that interruptions consume more than 2 hours, or 28% of a typical workday. Have you accounted for these 2 hours? Have you taught yourself to jump in to deal with these interruptions? Block off time to deal with emails, phone calls, and other unanticipated tasks. And these blocks can be an hour, 2, or even longer. You don't necessarily need a time on your calendar. You might start with the time, but be flexible enough to move it around your calendar as you're firming up your day. And block has a double meaning. Online and in many organizations, people might see that you're occupied and might not schedule something during that time. If a fire drill comes in, you simply take from the block that is less urgent. I was once transitioning into a brand new role, and I was sitting with the person whose job I'd be taking over. I asked him for a task list. He handed me 2. A short list, and then he mentioned an longer list that included all the items from the short list, plus many others. I asked him the difference. He said the short list was the least amount of work he could do in a day and still be satisfied knowing he hit all the critical items. Since that day, I've managed the concept of the least amount of work I can do in a day. Instead of pushing items day to day, which can actually take time, start to establish a must-do short list. Once it's done, you can start pulling in items from future days, weeks, or even months out. You must understand that constantly pushing items day to day is a red flag. When you can account for the least amount of work you can do in a day and still consider yourself successful, you will be satisfied and understand the power of the pull versus the push. Next, touch it once. Get your minds out of the gutter. I'm talking about eating. I used to be a chief of staff at a very large organization, and I was asked to manage my managers and privy to his emails, and asked to manage it for him periodically. Seemed easy enough, till the first time I saw it. There were over 1,000 emails. Some were read, some were not. Some were important, some were not. Some were urgent, some had some deadlines that were missed. As soon as you allow yourself to look at your email, you need to do something with it. Here are your options. If it's junk or spam, unsubscribe from it and delete it. For everything else, read it, delete it, read it, respond to it, read it, put it somewhere else for future reference, or put it in your calendar to actually work on it. That's it. Leaving it in your inbox is not an option. Learn to touch it once. Why touch it once? Because according to bizcommunity.com, there are over 294 billion emails sent each day, with an estimated 75% considered spam, according to the Radecki Group. Getting through the 75%, plus the 25% to actually get your job done, takes up valuable time. Now imagine, every time an email comes in, it grabs your attention and pulls you, run, pull, into multitasking. interactive work environment. We are slaves to this form of communication, and we're leashed to the devices that enable it. Take back control and start to establish an email strategy. I want to reiterate some points with the DIRT method. D-I-R-R-T. D. Dedicate time to your inbox. Don't take them on one at a time throughout the day. I. Ignore new messages. Rather than behaving like Pavlov's dog, don't react to every bell and whistle telling you you've got mail. R. Remember to touch it once. Take action and don't read it multiple times. R. Resist the urge to grab your smartphone first thing in the morning. Your attitude will thank you. And T. Turn off your notifications. Set the expectations with your colleagues, your peers, your business partners that you don't use email for immediate action. Have you ever watched an episode of Hoarders happening right in front of you? I used to have someone work for me who was great with people but lacked organizational skills. She'd been working on it and we'd seen some improvement. She was always saying, "I'll get around to it." I sat down at her desk one day and looked behind her. Her credenza was open and not intended for me to see. She was a file hoarder. There were mountains of unfiled paperwork, personnel files, and who knows what else hidden in piles behind her. She said, "I'll get around to it." So we set a deadline. Not a lot changed. She said, "I tried. There was too much. I didn't have time." As stated throughout this entire presentation, we do have time. It's just a matter of what we do. The simplicity of putting everything behind her turned into a pressure-filled ticking time bomb that still had to be addressed. She saw the stack as psychologically difficult to attack. Her strategy was avoidance. I've rarely seen that strategy work. I saw the stack as a series of simple and immediate tasks that can be done quickly. We tackled it together in less than 30 minutes. In life, we often put off what appears to be burdensome. Change your mindset and have the same commitment level as if the deadline's hanging over your head. It's the same pressure. It's just unseen. These are just some of the many actions that you can take to make a difference in your life. Let's go to the speed round. Use daily appointments to review tomorrow, next week, next month, next quarter. Every day on your calendar at 5 o'clock, it should say, "See tomorrow." 5 o'clock every Friday, see next week. 5 o'clock on the 26th of every month, not the 30th. It should say, "See next month, next quarter." These are reoccurring appointments, and you should be able to use more and more reoccurring appointments to address your emails, your phone calls. You want to get to the point where you're not thinking about it. Let the reminder do some of the work for you and tell you what needs to be done. Before you go to bed at night, keep a pad of paper and a pen on your nightstand and let the ideas flow. What do we do today? We toss, we turn, we try to remember the idea, we don't, and we lose sleep. There are so many benefits to this. First of all, you'll remember the idea. Even in the dark when you can't read your own writing, the concept of doing it helps to connect the dots to help you to remember what it is. This is my 2 a.m. note. I wrote it last night. You wouldn't be able to read it. But what happens is you will also sleep better. If you train yourself to get up for that just moment, to write it down, you will learn and train yourself more importantly, you will have better ideas. Because what's happening is you're going to hit your innermost non-stressed part of your brain. Next, under-promise, over-deliver. Be realistic with your timelines and your deadlines. Don't be the eager beaver who constantly misses your deadlines. Be the professional sandbagger who happens to get your stuff done early. Account for ancillary time. Remember we were talking about blocking? This is extra time that is not sitting on your calendar to grab some water, run to the restroom, run to somebody in the hall. If you schedule all 8 hours of your day on your calendar for meetings, there's a real high likelihood you're not going to get everything done you want to get done. Over time, you'll start to figure out how much you want to block for this. But remember, this is blocking, this isn't scheduling. Stop using checklists if you're constantly pushing those checklists day to day. Do use checklists for things that pop up on a regular basis. I'm going on vacation on Friday. I haven't even thought about packing because I know I have a list sitting in my sock drawer that says summer vacation, and on it it said sunscreen, sunglasses, feed the goldfish. For winter it says hat, gloves, boots, feed the goldfish. For your business list it says laptop charger, smartphone charger. These lists are your baseline. I've used the same vacation list for 20 years. There are cross-offs, there are add-ons. It didn't say smartphone 20 years ago on it. But here's your chance, it's a baseline to work with so you're not recreating the world over and over. And a good example of the baseline is the goldfish didn't make it. Stop multitasking. We've already proven in the beginning it doesn't work. It only recreates work for you. I'm going to contradict myself. Do multitask when you're waiting for a meeting to begin or you're standing in a long line. Get to those quick hit items. Have you ever been on a conference call? Have you ever been on a conference call that started on time? If you are the host, commit to the start time, commit to the end time. And as you're getting close to the end time, you'll start to figure out you need to wrap this up, meaning that it's time to start assigning, delegating, figuring out what roles and responsibilities are, what next steps are, before you bleed into the other appointment. It might be your time to set up a new meeting if you have to, but don't bleed into the other appointment. It's only going to throw you off, and it's going to throw everyone else off. And besides, what's happening anyway? If you've ever been, has anyone been on a conference call with 300 people? Yeah, I have. I love the beeps of 300 people dropping off early. Beep, beep, hi, this time, beep, beep, hi, good. People are dropping off, so by the time you end up toward the end anyway, you're not even talking to the full group. Have you ever been on a conference call that ended multiple times? I love the conference calls that end 10 minutes early, and then someone decides to throw in a topic that has nothing to do with what you're talking about. Or they decide to start talking about the Red Sox or the weather or something. The next time you have a meeting end early and someone does that, here's my promise, and I make very few promises in life. Your meeting will not end on time. It will run over. The one you thought was early, you were excited about, forget it. Especially when someone starts the meeting by saying, I know it's an hour-long meeting, but it's only going to take 15 minutes. Those are the dangerous ones. They last for an hour and a half. But the meetings that don't end, if you are the host or you have somewhat of some type of influence on the call, you can professionally end it. Thank you, great call. We talked about a lot of good things. I like to say, have a wonderful day in the neighborhood. I quote Mr. Rogers, and I hang up. It started off as a joke, and now people know it's the end of the call. As soon as I say, have a wonderful day in the neighborhood, we're done. And you can do it professionally. But what happens is, we're all afraid to say goodbye. When we're done with this presentation, I will professionally say goodbye. And you can leave. Or come up and talk. Doesn't matter. If you think skipping a break is going to help you make you more productive, you're wrong. Commit to a lunch break, even if it's only 30 minutes. I take 60 minutes a day for lunch. I go for a run. Again, I make very few promises in life. But you will be more productive in those last 4 hours than you would have been in 5 hours had skipping lunch. Anything over 90 minutes of the same or a similar task, research has already proven you're going to hit a wall at the 91st minute. You need to do something. And it could be just a couple minutes, a few minutes, but take some type of break. Grab some water. Read an article. Go on to social media if you can get yourself off of social media to come back. What you're really trying to do is change your focus point from what you're staring at for 90 minutes, completely away from it was, to when you come back to it, it becomes fresh again. Wake up 15 minutes earlier, you'll never know the difference. Blend your work and your life schedules together. We spend so much time trying to keep them apart. Bring them together, and if for some reason you don't want to, or you choose not to, at least have them in close proximity so they are running parallel. Understand what's important to you and urgent to you may not be important and urgent to others, including your boss and your boss at home. I remember working nights, working weekends, busting my tail to get this project done. I hand it over to my boss, and my boss says, "What's this?" He didn't even remember giving it to me. Being slightly anal retentive on another situation, I had all of the things I was working on a spreadsheet, including my wish list. I threw some pretend pseudo dates on there. It was a pretend list. It was a to-do list. It was my list. Dates that I was shooting for, and if I didn't get around to it, life goes on. Well, I shared it one time with my manager, and in my next performance appraisal, my manager says to me, "Why did you miss all of these deadlines?" I learned at that point, never share anything with your boss. What I really learned is communication and relationship building are extremely important to time management. Get on the same page, and don't waste time guessing. Have you ever had an email hang out in your inbox for a while, an extended period of time? Make decisions. Not reading an email? That's a choice. Deleting an email without reading it? That's a choice. Picking up the phone? Still a choice. I can have 100 things going on around me. The phone rings, I see it's my wife, I pick it up and I say, "I'm sorry, honey, I don't have time." And she says with all the logic, "Why did you pick up?" She's the smart one in the family. If you have an email in your inbox for greater than 5 days, when you go back to the office, I want you to do something. So you can go ahead and write this down. Delete it. Oh, I'm serious. Understand the ramifications of doing that, but delete it. What's going to happen? It's going to go to day 6, day 7, day 8, day 9, day 10. It's going to lose itself in priority anyway. Or, the other choice, be decisive. Inaction is not a decision. If you don't know what to do with that precious email sitting in your inbox, do something with it. Make a phone call to a subject matter expert, to a boss, to a peer, to a colleague, to somebody that can help you to figure out what do I need to do with this thing. So we can go out of there so you can still touch it once. Ask for help before it's too late. If your nose is above water, congratulations, you are winning. But what do? We wait till our nose goes under, and it's too late. Communication is critical to time management. Double the expected time. If you've ever been to a dump in Maine, you know what I'm talking about. If you want to schedule a meeting for 30 minutes, make it 60. There are benefits to doing that. First of all, you're not going to rush through it. You're not going to have people dropping off at 27 after. You might end up early in most cases, and therefore you can start pulling items in. But double the expected time, and over time, if it's a routine meeting, you'll start to figure out what the real time should be. But if you're unsure, if you think it's going to take a half hour, it'll take an hour. This speech is 30 minutes. was given an hour. It will finish at 47 minutes, I will guess. There are other X factors in it. Use the term FU on your calendar. It's appropriate. It's okay. It stands for follow-up. It is critical, if not the most important tool in your arsenal. If you give a task to somebody, you should have a follow-up appointment on the due date. And feel free to include that person to remind them. If someone gives you a task, you should have 2 of them. The day it's due, and the actual day you're going to be working on it. By the way, they're typically not the same day. Learn to say no. You can be professional and say no. You don't want a reputation of not being a team player. But what you might want to do is be realistic with your timelines and invest a little bit of time to the requester and give them solutions, resources, ideas, without necessarily being the doer in the request. And what you'll find is in a lot of cases they will appreciate that small amount of time that you did invest with them. You do not have to catch the ball that is thrown to you. The concept of time is man-made. As the centuries passed, the lone town church bell that marked the end of a typical workday somehow turned into managing every second of every day. As a result, we've blurred the line between life and business. We have a choice every day of what to do with the 24 hours staring us in the face. I've been anal retentive and have been a consummate teacher and student of time management for years, yet I don't wear a watch. There's enough apparatus in this world that tell us the time. To me, time is the present, not a device. We can't live in the past. We only have this moment, and we can make our future better by managing our present effectively. I gave instructions to someone I mentor for her own development. She agreed it was reasonable and committed to doing it. She didn't do it. Her exact words were, I didn't have everyone. It's too bad. Doesn't hurt me. Also doesn't help her. I can't force her to do it, but she couldn't find 30 minutes a month for her own development. We create our own self-limitations. We say we'll do tomorrow what we really want to do today. Take back your day. Today is a self-reflection on what you can do to control your day. I'd like you to write down 3 time management ideas that you would like to implement. Go ahead and write those down. Does anyone want to share one of their ideas? Turn off your notifications, okay?
Say no.
Say no. Professional. For my Fort Kent credit.
Keep off the computer.
Keep off the computer. Yeah, turn it completely away or sit in a different spot if you have to. Put things back where they belong. Yeah, at the time, immediately. Don't wait. Absolutely.
Not grabbing my phone first thing in the morning.
Yeah. So I was turning off my laptop today. Got a new laptop a couple months ago. I'm still trying to figure it out. But in order to turn it off, I had to turn it back on. And to live by my own rules, I saw emails, so I had to address them. what happens with those. But again, it actually changes your mindset. There's also a rule of thumb that says really don't watch the news or read the paper. Get yourself a chance to wake up and figure out what's going on with your day before you throw the fact that there are all of these things going on in the world that may or may not be negative. So yes, give yourself a chance to acclimate to the day before you start jamming yourself with that. What else? Yeah, if you're meeting with multiple people, give yourself a breath. And it'll be good for them because now you're starting to figure out, how do I want to address this person? What do I have to work on with this individual person? And sometimes they blend together. And it's a good example when I coach people. I've had a couple back-to-backs, and I know that they weren't as productive as they could have been. So I've started to add a little space time in there. And the other thing about, and this is also for meetings, by doubling the expected time or having more time, it actually gives you a time to write out the meeting minutes right then and there if you're doing it, write some notes, understand if there's some takeaways for you so you can address those takeaways and put them somewhere in your calendar to actually work on it. One more. I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Yeah, how to get them to stop talking. Yeah, so I have this guy who works for me. He's a wonderful individual. His parents are a little sick, so he likes to share all of their medical stories with me. Every one of them, things I can't even say here in public. So there are a lot of things going on, and he calls me all the time, but I don't have caller ID, but he's the only one who really calls me. Everything else is on a conference call. So I know when it rings, it's like, oh, here it comes. And he doesn't like to get off. And I've learned how to professionally get him off. One of the ways to do that is, I can't hear you. I say, actually, I have a meeting coming up, or I need to prepare for a meeting, or hey, you caught me at a bad time. Is there a better time to catch up? Those types of things. The other thing about the phone ringing, though, you may have seen news recently that all those spam calls that come in on your phone, like you don't know what's real and what's not anymore. But there's been recent signing over of regulations that your phone company can now start doing some of that policing for you. So the hope is that it goes down a little bit. You never know. But it's hard to figure out when do you actually pick up or not. So now I don't even pick up when my wife calls anymore. I'll catch you later. But there was one point over here I didn't want to let you hang. People come first. Absolutely. If you don't think you have enough time to invest to improve your own time management, think again. There are only 24 hours